When Aidan Brooks checked into room 306 at the Grand Hollow Hotel, he had no idea he was walking into a place that shouldn't exist. Built in the early 1900s, the Grand Hollow was once the height of luxury, but by the time Aidan arrived, it was an old, somewhat elegant relic of the past. The lobby smelled faintly of stale cigarettes and regret. The plush carpet was stained with who knew what, and most of the guests seemed determined to stay as far away from each other as possible. At the front desk sat a young woman who looked bored enough to have been carved from wood. She studied Aidan as he checked in. When she handed him the key, her eyes were distant. "Enjoy your stay, Mr. Brooks," she said quietly, then added with a strange look, "And remember, don't open the closet at midnight." Aidan laughed nervously. Was that a joke? He didn't think it was funny, but he didn't want to seem rude, so he just nodded dumbly and took the key. Then he headed toward the elevator. His room was on the 3rd floor, far down the end of the only hallway. The elevator was small and slow. Its buttons were unresponsive, forcing him to push the up arrow until it finally registered. By the time the doors opened on the 3rd floor, he was soaked in nervous sweat. The hallway was dim, the carpet thread. As he approached his room, he noticed a faded sign hanging crookedly from a nail. It read, "Beware of dog." Well, maybe they were warning him about more than just canine. When he pushed the door open, a wave of cold air hit him, as if someone had left the window open in the dead of winter. To his surprise, the room was nicer than the rest of the hotel. The furniture was almost certainly antique. There was a TV in one corner, its boxy screen glowing a sickly green. The bed was draped with an ornate quilt. On the nightstand sat a dusty lamp and a framed picture of a woman in a Victorian nightgown. But something about the room made him uneasy, like a spider crawling across his skin. Aidan tried to shake it off. He unpacked his things, got ready for bed, then switched off the light and climbed under the covers. The room was silent, except for the steady drip of a leaky pipe somewhere in the walls. Aidan tossed and turned. His mind raced, his heart pounded. He couldn't explain it, but he had the feeling he was being watched. Then, just before midnight, he heard it, a soft knock, then another knock, then another. The sound came from the closet. At first he thought it was his imagination. Then he realized it wasn't the sound of pipes or the wind. It was the sound of knuckles tapping on wood. Someone or something was in the closet, and it was trying to get out. Staring at the dark closet door, Aidan battled with his instincts. His gut screamed at him to ignore the noise, pretend he hadn't heard anything at all. But curiosity, or perhaps morbid fascination, pulled him toward the closet. He sat on the bed, listening intently. The knocking continued, now faster, more insistent. When the clock chimed 12 times, the closet unlocked itself. The door swung open, and a pale light spilled out onto the floor. Trembling, Aidan grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. It wasn't much, but it was enough to illuminate the closet empty. Nothing was in there. Confused and shaken, Aidan reached forward to switch off his phone, but when his fingers touched the back wall of the closet, they went straight through. He gasped and stumbled backward. It wasn't solid, it was air. Taking a deep breath, trying to calm the erratic thumping of his heart, Aidan stepped inside. The closet was bigger on the inside, he realized, than it had been on the outside. The floor was covered in dirt. Vines hung from the ceiling, their leaves rustling softly. Then he noticed a crack in the opposite wall, a sliver of light peeking through. And when he walked toward it, the world shifted. He wasn't in the closet anymore. In front of him lay a long, dimly lit hallway. It stretched endlessly in both directions, lined with identical doors marked 306. Behind him, the closet door had vanished. All the air seemed to be sucked out of this place, leaving him in a vacuum of silence. Aidan turned back, hoping to find another exit, but there was nothing behind him except darkness. The only way was forward. So he began walking, his footsteps echoing around him. The whispers started softly, then grew louder. Low, distant voices murmured his name over and over again. Aidan. Their tone was mournful, as if lamenting something unspeakable. Aidan, you shouldn't be here. He wanted to call out, to ask who was there, what was going on. But his throat was tight, his mouth dry. He couldn't speak. Then he saw it. One of the doors was slightly ajar. Inside, he saw a reflection of his own hotel room, the TV flickering on the nightstand. The closet door was wide open. Curiosity overwhelmed him. He had to know what was in there. As he stepped closer, the reflection moved. He saw himself standing in the room, turning around to face him. The other Aidan stared back, his face pale, his eyes wide with terror. You have to leave, the other Aidan gasped, his lips moving silently. Room 306 doesn't exist. They're coming, but before he could finish, The door slammed shut. The hallway shook. The walls writhed like living things. Pictures fell from the walls, their screams echoing around him. Then, the floor beneath him disappeared. Aidan fell into darkness. He woke up in the hotel lobby, gasping for breath. The young woman at the front desk looked up, startled. "Sir, are you okay?" he asked, her voice hoarse. I need to get out of here," he stammered, scrambling to his feet. He turned to the elevator, but the hallway was gone. Where his room should have been, there was just a blank wall. His luggage, his camera bag, his toiletries, his room key, all gone. It was like he had never checked in at all. Had it been a dream? Then he checked his phone. He had a single new recording, a voice whispering, "You shouldn't have opened the closet." The timestamp, 12 a.m. Shaken but determined, Aidan checked out without waking the others at the front desk. He left the hotel, stepped outside into the daylight, then hailed a cab. At the hospital, he told the doctor about his strange experience, about the whispering voices and the endless hallway. The doctor listened patiently, then performed a series of tests. All of them came back negative. "Mr. Brooks, you're perfectly healthy," the doctor said kindly. "I think you just need some rest." But as he drove home, Aidan couldn't shake off the feeling that something was following him. He glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the same black car that had been following him earlier. When he turned to the side window, his breath caught in his throat. Sitting in the back seat of the cab was a woman in a Victorian nightgown. Her eyes, dark and hollow, stared straight ahead. Beside her, in the front passenger seat, sat a man in a tattered suit. His face was gaunt, his hair greasy and matted. Together, they watched him, their gazes unwavering, their lips curled into cruel smiles. Aidan screamed, scrambling for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. He pounded against the glass, his screams echoing in his ears. Then everything went black. Epilogue. Years later, the Grand Hollow Hotel still stands, a crumbling monument to a forgotten era. The locals claim it's haunted, and no one has checked into room 306 since that fateful night. No one except, of course, those who work there, who gather every night in their secret room to welcome new arrivals like Aidan, who unwittingly opened the closet and stepped into their world. For room 36 isn't just a room, it's a gateway, a portal to a realm where time has stopped and souls are trapped forever. Those who enter never leave, and those who listen closely to the whispering voices may just hear their names being called.